Welcome to WNBA Hoop Streams presented by Google. We are down to the final two. The WNBA Finals are set, and we are here to break it down with you over the next 30 minutes alongside WNBA insider Ari Chambers. I'm Sam Ravech. So great to have you with us. Ari, we are so excited for the 1 seed New York Liberty to take on the 2 seed Minnesota Lynx, two of the best teams in the league all year long, but it feels like a really special day to get this thing going.
It's a battle of the dynasty versus the program that never got it.
Right.
So I'm excited for it.
It's going to be great. And again, we will have a wrap-up show post-game as well later on tonight. But let's get you set for this one. Before we do, Ari, what's been your favorite moment of the playoffs so far?
Outside of my good sister and Ellie?
Yeah.
When Sabrina said, Spike Lee injected New York into my veins, and that night she proceeded to, let me read the stats, finished with 21 points, 4 rebounds, 5 of 6, shot 3 of 6 from three-point, and 9 of 15 from the field. And there's Spike Lee. I cannot believe the New York Liberty got Spike Lee out of Madison Square Garden and into Barclays.
Legendary.
That's a feat in itself, and look at that hug.
You're right. It is absolutely a feat in and of itself. I'm going to go with Napheesa Collier way back in the first round when she was putting up numbers that, quite frankly, we just hadn't seen in WNBA playoff history, right? She averaged 40 points against the Mercury, scored 42 points in Game 2 of that series that tied a WNBA single-game postseason record. And Fee, of course, going up against Sabrina Ionescu here in the finals as well. Biggest question that you have, Ari, going into these finals?
Well, you just mentioned Fee, and look at the shiftiness of Napheesa Collier, and just how are you going to contain that? You have to slow her down. But what adjustments are the Liberty going to make this go-round? Because you know they're losing 3-1 against the series against Minnesota. So what adjustments are you all going to do? How are you going to adjust to Minnesota's stifling defense and then containing their offense?
I think the biggest question for me is going to be answered by tonight.
Yeah.
Can the Liberty finally win a Game 1? They are 0-5 in Game 1s of the finals. So can they finally get over that hump? They exercised some demons in the semifinals and in order to get to the finals. So let's take a look at how the Liberty did indeed get to the finals here in 2024. In the first round, they would match up with Atlanta behind a career night from Leonie Fevich in Game 1. Sabrina Ionescu scored 36 points in Game 2. The Liberty would cruise into the semifinals where they would meet the Aces, led by a combined 55 points from their 2 stars, Stewart and Ionescu. The Liberty would take Game 1. Game 2, a little bit more back and forth, but Sabrina would take some huge shots down the stretch to give the Liberty a 2-0 series lead. They would drop Game 3 going back to Vegas, and then finally Game 4, Sabrina would come out firing, finished with 22 points, including 5 three-pointers to send the defending champs packing. 6 time is the charm, Ari, right? That's what they say. This is the Liberty's.
I guess so.
This is the Liberty's 6th time reaching the finals. They have never won one. It's been a storyline that has been talked about and lamented throughout the entire season as the Liberty try to finally get over the hump. Now, on the other side, the Minnesota Lynx making their 7th appearance in the finals. The only difference between the two is there are 4 championship banners
the only difference
in the Target Center. Why can the Liberty win this year?
The Liberty can win this year because they're a very different team this year. They're battle-tested. They have 1 year under their belt. They know exactly what they need to do. Last year, Sabrina said she was like a deer in headlights. She didn't know what pace to play. They were playing so fast. They got uncharacteristic against this Vegas team who has been together. And so now it's about gelling together. They said New York has not shown Minnesota their best yet. They said, you have not seen what we can do, and I anticipate them to be able to play their role and not be that lost team that they were last season.
The Liberty won 3 of the 4 matchups if you include the Commissioner's Cup championship game. And the question is, like, you know, how much weight are we going to place on the regular season matchups versus what we're going to see in the finals here? I don't know. I mean, do you put any stock into that?
Well, players say the postseason is a completely different beast. It's not like anything you see regular season. You're playing for something. When New York got into this season, they had a goal in mind. Their goal was to finish at the top of the standings and to get the championship. They have now finished at the top of the standings, and they're fighting for a championship. You see, each player has really increased their role on the team, particularly Sabrina Ionescu, who's added to her range, knows how to facilitate better, has worked really hard off-season in order to get a myriad of skill sets and shots going for her team as well. And JJ stepping up, knowing her size, knowing, say, hey, I know my presence. You have Stewie, who's playing Stewie basketball. Courtney Vandersloot, who's been able to adjust to her role properly in her absence because her mother passed away in June, but she's been able to step up and give that spark that her team has needed despite the role that they utilize her in.
You know, we ask why the Liberty can win it this year. Even with all of those free agent acquisitions that they brought in, it still felt like they were missing a piece. And Leonie Fibish was that piece. And she has just been out of this world. Plus minus has led the league in the postseason. Her shooting ability, her length, her versatility to defend multiple spots. She's shooting at 65% from the field here in the postseason, and never mind 59% from beyond the arc. So you talk about her as a player that has added a whole new dimension to this team that they otherwise didn't have earlier.
You know, the New York Liberty said, despite the fact that she had a rookie record in scoring on her game 1 against the Atlanta Dream, they said the X factor and the defense is Leonie Fibish. So we don't talk enough about how defensively she really helps her team.
Yeah, incredible. And Leo's been a player that the Liberty have moved into the starting rotation since the start of the playoffs. You mentioned Courtney Vandersloot taking a trip to the bench there, but has been so instrumental in this team getting to where they are off the bench.
Leo is a rookie steal, and not everybody pays attention to her because she's an older rookie. She comes from international play, so she has that international experience playing on the biggest stage. She knows how to absorb context. She's not afraid, and so I think that Sandy Brondello and the front office really did their big one when they drafted her.
No doubt. Outside of Leo, though, who needs to step up, do you think, for the Liberty in order for them to win a best-of-5 finals?
Jonquel Jones, step up to the plate. It is your time to not get in foul trouble. She needs to capitalize off the fact that she's the biggest person on the court. There is nobody there to match up with her. So I would say she needs to step up and she needs to take over. Sandy Brondello in practice yesterday said it's 100% important for JJ to stay out of foul trouble and stay emotionally stable in the moment. And when they got their only win against the Lynx this season, she got 17 rebounds. 17.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Benijah Laney-Hamilton as a player that I think needs to step up. She's been so good for this team ever since she got there after winning Most Improved Player in 2021. But has seemed a little bit off in this postseason. She had 18 games of 10 or more points in the regular season, just one such game here in the playoffs. So I think she's going to be a crucial part. And if they're going to win.
Yeah, I mean, she's coming off of injury, so it's no secret that she has been battling injury all season long. But when she is healthy, she's one of the best defensive players in the league, and we cannot take away that disruption from her. I hope she enters the final series as fully herself because they do need her.
They do need her, and just to on your point, like her defense. Everybody on this team has a role, right? And you don't need her to be that scoring threat because they have a lot of them.
They have so many scoring threats, but she's so scrappy on defense. She gets in your face. She's a tough girl. She's a tough girl, and she does not back down from the fact that she is tough. And so when she locks in, there's no stopping Benijah.
So we mentioned, the Liberty have been the best team in the league all year long, but Minnesota has had their number this year. So in your mind, Ari, who poses the biggest challenge from Minnesota to the Liberty?
Okay, I'm going to answer this question, but I think the biggest threat, because she's an X factor, is Bridget Carlton. If you look up in the dictionary, who's clutch? It's Bridget, okay? She, in the 2024 postseason, she averages 10 points, 3.4 rebounds, 1.6 assists silently. And we all know what Fee can do, but, Bridget Carlton really steps up. And against the Liberty this season, she's gotten 14, 23, 19, put up big numbers against them. And so she's able to be another offensive threat. We know about Fee, we know about Courtney, we know about K-Mac, but Bridget Carlton is right there.
Yeah, and we know that the three-point shooting ability for this team has been so instrumental in them making a run. Look, let's be honest. A lot of people at the start of this season didn't even imagine the Lynx playing in the playoffs, never mind playing in the finals. K-Mac is a huge reason why they are here. You mentioned her. 12 for 30 beyond the arc in the 4 games that Minnesota played against the Liberty this year. Her three-point shooting is going to be, I think, make or break for this Minnesota.
She's such a great catch and shoot girl. She's quick release. She just loves to move in transition. And she's giving vintage K-Mac. I know a lot of people who are new to the league might not know about Kayla McBride from Notre Dame days, might not know about Kayla McBride from her first years in the league, but she's an all-star, multi-time all-star for a reason, and that girl gets it done.
She's just a gamer.
A gamer.
You know, she's a gamer. She loves the game of basketball, and you can see that when she plays. We talked about how the Liberty have gotten better, adding pieces that they need to. But why are they more of a threat this year? Why were they the best team in the league?
We mentioned Leonie Fibich earlier. That additive piece to their offense and defense is huge, especially because she's a rookie. People have to adjust to scout her.
Right.
And so that's all new pieces. You have a year under your belt. John-Claude Jones told me, jokingly, the charter flights help them with their team chemistry because those moments you get to be together as a team more. You have tragedy that brought them together, unfortunately, with Courtney Vandersloot. You have Sabrina with her extended game. You have her and Brianna Stewart being able to adjust after the Olympic break, and it honestly could have given Sabrina Ionescu some more confidence because she performed really well on the largest stage. And so all of this put together, they're fine. And, last year, like I said, Sabrina said, we did not play our pace. They have learned their pace. They learned exactly what they want to play with, and that's what they're bringing.
Every championship team, no matter the sport, needs leaders.
Yes.
And they need players that understand their role and accept their role. Sabrina Ionescu has taken that next step as the leader of this team. We talked about on the last WNBA Hoop Streams about, is this Sabrina's team? Well, she doesn't like outwardly say, this is my team.
She should, Sam.
But she does with her play. She does with her play. I think Game 4 of the semifinals completely epitomized how Sabrina Ionescu has taken that next step. Was held to just 4 points by the Aces in that Game 3, right? Game 4 came out like there wasn't even a Game 3. She dropped 22 points and led her team back to the championship. So while she may not be screaming from the mountaintops, this is my team, her play dictates that it is.
She said, and I took it personally. Okay, there's a reason why she was the #1 draft pick in 2020. This is like one of the first years we've seen her fully healthy. She said she went off season and rehabbed and really got her back right. And so Sabrina's showing her full self going into this.
All right, I got the YouTube chat up here. Everyone is saying, well, what about the Minnesota Lynx?
Okay.
Because the Lynx are playing in the finals too. Let's see how they got there. It was all about Napheesa Collier in the first round. Like we mentioned earlier, averaged 40 points, tied a WNBA playoff record with 42 in Game 2 against the Mercury as the Lynx swept their way into the semis. Collier would struggle out of the gate against the Connecticut Sun, but in Game 2, the Lynx role players would really come alive for this team. 17 points from Courtney Williams. The Lynx would tie the series at 1. Napheesa catch her stride in Game 3. She scored 26 points to give the Lynx a 2-1 series lead. And in a must-win Game 5 situation, the Lynx could once again call upon their ace to close it out. Collier and Williams finished Game 5, a combined 51 points as the Lynx make their first trip to the finals since they won it all in 2017, Ari. So this is officially a rematch of the Commissioner's Cup Championship that we saw back in June. They have played 2 times since. Each team has gotten a win. How has this Lynx team evolved over the back half of the WNBA season?
So Cheryl Reeve said, hey, maybe not the first day, but the second day of training camp, I knew this team was special. She said she wanted to seek out the right people for respectfulness and maturity in communication, and that they were hanging on to some things that it was time to let go of. So this is a new look Lynx with a goal in mind, not just trying to make the playoffs. They want to be at the top of those standings and really get it done. But June, they haven't really, they've improved since June, but let's keep in mind, their record was 14-4 from the start of season to June. So it's what it is. But Myisha Hines-Allen got added to the Lynx. And Myisha Hines-Allen not only brings rebounding and just that aggression they need, but a championship mentality. She knows what it is to be a champion, and Cheryl Reeve is really pleased with her contribution to the team.
This was a team that was picked to finish 9th.
Yeah.
Ninth. In the preseason. If they were to finish 9th, they're not in the playoffs.
They wouldn't have made it. But, after we talk about June, but let's talk about July. After Olympic break, during Olympic break, a lot of the teams got to work out with their coaches and everything. And K-Mac and Courtney said, oh, God, we don't have our coach. So we need to keep our team together. We will not slip right now. So let's lock in and gather our team so we do not have to worry about picking up the pieces later. Right,
no question. And let's not, too, forget, Fee was dealing with an injury. They lost 4 of 6 right before that break, before the Olympic break. She was dealing with plantar fasciitis. She got healthy, too. So, let's not pretend like they just fell apart there in the middle of the season for a couple of weeks. No, they were dealing with some injuries and also some other stuff as well off the court. But who needs to step up for the Lynx in order for them to win this series? Because they are underdogs. Make no doubt about it.
I want to see Courtney Williams continue to do what Courtney Williams does. Again, one of the best mid-range shooters ever. She is the poise. When I talked to all of them at practice yesterday, they said that she gives them the poise. And that's shocking because you look at Courtney, you're like, oh, that's my dog.
Right.
But when it comes to situations, she's not new to the finals. She knows exactly what it takes to get to the place where they are right now. She keeps her composure and sees the floor very well. She told me she never once in her life thought that she would be the starting point guard of the Minnesota Lynx, and she wears that as a badge of honor. And not only does she bring the offense, but she brings that athleticism, that spark, that poise, that dog that they need.
Bridget Carlton had a case to be the MVP, I think, of the Commissioner's Cup championship game. She led her team in scoring, 23 points, made 6 threes in that game, went 7 for 30 from 3 in the semis against Connecticut. 23% for a player that shot it over 44% in the regular season. We talk about the importance of shooting the 3 ball for this team. She's going to have to get it going and be that player that they've been able to rely upon. You see it there, 44% from 3-point range, just hasn't really had it so far this postseason.
It's interesting because I'm looking at both of these teams, especially going into the finals, and they play so similarly, and it's going to be an exciting match because of the way they play so similarly. They like to distribute the ball. They love just capitalizing off of assists and ball movement. And so just knowing that, and you're talking about her 3-point shooting, I'm like, New York has it on this side too. So just seeing the matchup is going to be crazy.
And both these teams love to run in transition too. That's going to be a whole other part of the game that's kind of a game within the game. But as they say, matchups make fights, right? So what matchup are you most excited to follow as these finals go on?
Okay, Sam, we're in Connecticut, and hear me out. I love nostalgia, so I'm banking on the UConn days. Fee and Stewie. Keep in mind, Stewie was Fee's senior. That means Fee was Stewie's freshman.
Right.
But when she first walked in on campus and showed herself on the court, Stewie said, who is this lanky player that's just so shifty? And she developed into the Napheesa Collier that she is. But we see both shiftiness, both length, both agility and skill set that both of these players bring. So I'm looking at the matchup, how they match up.
Jonquel Jones, for me, you mentioned as kind of an X factor for this team. I'm going to be very interested to see who that second post player is guarding Jonquel Jones in this series. If Cheryl decides to put Fee on Stewie, that's going to open up some space because a lot like the Aces, Minnesota doesn't really have like the second post player to match the physicality that Jonquel Jones brings to the table.
Yeah, when you look at these teams, you can say, hey, New York has Sabrina, New York has Stewie. You can look at the Lynx and say, the Lynx have Napheesa Collier, but when you look at the Liberty in particular, they have JJ and the Lynx don't. The size difference makes a difference.
Yeah.
And I actually got to talk to them in practice about who they think is their X factor, who they think is clutch. So let's check it out.
Who comes to mind when I say range?
Sabrina. Sabrina. Me.
Poise.
Slutty. Leo. I know about you. Leo and Sloot.
X factor.
Leo.
JJ.
Leo.
Defense.
Benijah.
B.
And I Delaney Hamilton.
Period. Come on, full man. What?
Stewie. Me. Stewie Sab. Maya Moore. Can I do that?
No, it has to be the
Okay. Oh my.
She didn't say that.
Well, I'm she thinks like none of us are flush.
Now it's time to take a look at what fans are searching for, presented by Google. Previous WNBA champions was a breakout search in the U.S. over the past week. Now, Ari, we have a lot of new fans coming to the WNBA. We love the new fans coming into the league, but the Minnesota Lynx were a dynasty. From 2011 to 2017, they won 4 titles in odd years, actually, 2011, 2013, 2015, and 2017. 2 of those championships were actually sweeps against the Atlanta Dream. So this was a dominant team in that time frame. What do you remember about those teams? Because we talk about nostalgia, right? Like that is nostalgia for us. But what do you remember about those teams? And do you see any similarities with this 2024 version?
Well, going back to practice and Courtney Vandersloot saying Maya Moore is clutch, that's exactly what I referenced the fact that Maya Moore really held it down, and there's so many cold-blooded moments of Maya Moore just shooting that thing, and you're like, how did Maya make that shot? And I cry as a former Sparks fan back in that rivalry. There was a Sparks-Lynx heavy rivalry, and I just love the competitive play. But when you look at this team now that Cheryl Reeve has put together, you see a little bit, it's coming back. We have the mid-range with Simone Augustus back in the day. Now you have that passed on to Courtney Williams. And so just knowing that those are reminiscent, and also the player whisperer. We have Napheesa Collier being that same role that Sylvia Fowles was able to be for Cheryl Reeve.
Take a look at this tweet, by the way, that we found from our friend Mike. He put this up here. No Minnesota men's pro team has reached the championship round in any sport since 1991. Since then, the Lynx have reached the WNBA Finals 7 times. And, oh, by the way, they weren't even a thing until 1999. You know, Minnesota is a town full of young superstars, whether you want to talk about Anthony Edwards with the T-Wolves, of course, Justin Jefferson.
I never default to men.
But none of them, none of them have done what Napheesa Collier and the Minnesota Lynx have done.
Yeah, but I mean, I want to go back to that team from the teens of the 2000s.
Please, yeah.
They're stacked full of Hall of Famers. You look back, and this crazy, you had Maya Moore, who GOAT, goes undisputed GOAT. You have Rebecca Brunson, the most decorated. She has 5 rings. You have Sylvia Fowles. She leads the league in a lot of things rebounding.
Yep.
You have Lindsay Whalen, just the point guard that you just were like, how do you make that happen? You have just Simone Augustus, who they call her Money Moan for a reason. There's such a strong legacy of excellence that permeates the Minnesota Lynx legacy, and you just want to be better for that legacy. And I'm glad that this team now can reference back to those days and bring the Minnesota Lynx back into the spectrum that they have been for the whole time.
We have 2 really experienced coaches going out of here. 2 of the most winningest coaches, right? Cheryl Reeve and Sandy Brondello. Cheryl Reeve has seen the super highs of this Minnesota franchise. She has seen the super lows since she has taken over in 2009. I think you can make a case this is her best coaching job, no?
Well, we have to figure out, is she going to get the job done? I cannot confidently say
that's fair.
This is Cheryl Reeve's best coaching job if she doesn't get the ring, because we've seen the dynasty that is get those rings. But I will say this is great free agency movement. I say this is great acquiring of players, knowing the need of your team, knowing who can be additive, knowing what pieces to add mid-season when you're lacking. And so coming together comprehensively, I think this is the best movement that she's done. But I'm looking back on the first time the Lynx got a championship with Sylvia Fowles. That first year that Sylvia Fowles came over, she was instant impact. And so I'm looking at this, it's so reminiscent of those days, but I cannot confidently say until they secure what they want to secure that this is her best year coaching.
I'm just going to go on the turnaround. Like, think about where this team was at last year. They won 19 games, 19 and 21 last year. They had a plus 11 win improvement from last year. They won 30 games this year. So that's why I just go with the Cheryl Reeve best coaching job. I do agree with you, though.
Is she the best coach or the best magician right now? Like she's a what is it called when she like puts together the pieces? Oh gosh, it's escaping my mind. But anyway, and Atlanta Smith. She added Atlanta Smith too. There's so many additives to this Minnesota Lynx team that Cheryl Reeve was doing her big GM one.
Well, but why didn't this team get enough credit? I get like the names.
It's a puppeteer, Sam.
No,
sorry,
puppeteer. The names that they picked up in free agency weren't like, splashy names, but these were a lot of veteran players that had even played in finals. And I know you have relationships with a lot of these players on Minnesota. Like, did that affect them at all?
So
or no?
Cheryl Reeve knew in general. She went in knowing that it wasn't going to be a super team on paper. It wasn't going to be something that was flashy. She knew that the media wasn't going to talk about them, but she moved in silence. She said, hey, let's look at what the teams who have won have, and let's see what pieces that they're underutilizing and how I can get into these people. And so, like, I see a Natisha Heidemann, the utilization of her and how that fit is great. I see a Courtney Williams that was challenged to run point for the Lynx organization when she didn't even see herself that she would be that strong point guard. I see Atlanta Smith being brought in for defense. I see everything that Cheryl envisioned, but she didn't say, hey, let me put together a super team. She said, let me put together the pieces that I don't have right now to make a team that I want for now and the future.
Super team or not, they have been one of the best teams in the WNBA all season long. That is why they are playing in the WNBA Finals. You're watching WNBA Hoop Streams presented by Google, guys. Thank you so much. We appreciate you and all of your interaction in the YouTube chat as well. We'll be monitoring that all day long. And again, a reminder, we will have a wrap-up show after the game tonight, so stick around for that. Monica McNutt will join us as well. But before we get to that, before we get to the game, Ari,
Sam, don't ask me.
We got to make some predictions. We got to make some predictions. Who do you think is going to win the WNBA championship this year, and how many games?
Okay. I will never doubt the coaching ability of Cheryl Reeve, but I think that the unfinished business for the New York Liberty will finally be the finished business. They have too much experience together, too battle-tested, too eager to win this championship. And you know when I knew that they were really, really set in was when they did not celebrate after Game 4. They were locked in. You see Minnesota Lynx was so happy that they beat the Connecticut Sun in their series, but the New York Liberty said, hey, it's unfinished business. It's not over. And the Lynx themselves had to go through a really, really difficult semifinals and played more games than the New York Liberty. And so New York is looking like we know what that feeling is like, having to play Connecticut in a semi and be beat down. You have a replenished New York Liberty team that has had a goal in mind since day one that is not satisfied until they get the ring.
I'm going to take Minnesota here, but I'm also going to say we're going 5 in this thing.
Oh, they're going 5. Absolutely.
I think these are two of the best. They have proven to be two of the best teams for a reason. But I think Minnesota, not many teams have gotten the best of New York this year. Minnesota has. They have figured out a formula to beat this team. In the head-to-head matchups in the regular season, the stats between these two teams were almost identical in all but really 2 categories: 3-point shooting and assists. Minnesota moves the ball incredibly well. They work in transition, and they get threes out of their transition game. And in the 4 games during the regular season, the Commissioner's Cup, it laid out. Minnesota shot at 45% from 3. New York shot at 30%. Minnesota averaged 26 assists per game in those 4. New York averaged 20.
You know who else moves the ball incredibly well and gets those transition threes? It's New York as well.
How important is defense? We didn't really talk about defense a ton in this show, but like, who's going to...
So we know Minnesota's known for their defense, but both teams have great, strong defensive identity. And if New York goes into it knowing, hey, I need to lock down on defense, they contain Fee, it's theirs.
So many great storylines to keep an eye on, too, in these WNBA Finals, and it's all tipping off tonight, 8 Eastern time on ESPN. We will be watching it, no question about it. I know the rest of you and the entire world are going to be taking in the Minnesota Lynx and the New York Liberty in the Big Apple tonight. For Ari Chambers, our entire crew, I'm Sam Ravech, saying thanks so much for watching WNBA Hoop Streams presented by Google. We'll see you tonight on the wrap-up.